Hello all, the Irrational Skeptic here, and today I wanted to do a video concerning near-death experiences and particularly near-death experiences and generally speaking about universal consciousness or awareness. And as I said in my previous videos that I would be going over topics concerning spirituality as well on humanitarian-esque type of videos, and this is going to be one of them. So if it's something you're interested in hearing in the future, hit the subscribe button, like the video, and leave a comment at the end if you enjoy it. So what I wanted to go through first was that I've been recently watching a lot of interviews with people that have had near-death experiences, and what I find is that there is a commonality among all their stories. And so I know that I'll get to the science bit of it later, but the commonalities that we usually find are that when they do die, when they're reported to have died, their heart stops, many of them stop having any brain function, they seem to pop out of their body, and they usually see themselves as a kind of awareness, and most of them just see themselves as they would normally see themselves, so they look just like how they look as they're laying down. Some of them just see their awareness being outside their body and are looking at their body, although they're not looking at themselves having any kind of body. The next commonality is that they usually report going through some kind of tunnel of white light is what a lot of them report. A lot of them report then going to what they see to be heaven or some place in a spiritual realm. It doesn't always have to be heaven. Some people say it's a dark void. Some people say it's a very beautiful, colorful place. Some people say they see beautiful buildings, beautiful waterfalls, other beings in the form of light, other beings wearing white robes and just shining. A lot of them report seeing on their way up, as they would call it, but we can't really know whether it's up or down, but and that shouldn't really matter. But on their way through the tunnel, they report seeing Earth from an outsider's point of view. Many of them report seeing the whole universe as in a kind of kaleidoscopic view of the whole universe, and they see orbs of light flying towards the earth, orbs of light flying away from the earth, which is indicative, of course, as you may imagine, of souls coming to earth and souls leaving the earth. As we know, almost every moment someone on earth dies, and equally people are giving birth all the time. So you can imagine souls coming to earth, souls leaving the earth. So orbs going up, orbs going into earth, orbs coming out of earth. And many of them report meeting a sort of being that takes them to what they call a life review. And in this life review, they, for the most part, so this is 90% of them, report having a life review where they see their birth all the way to the moment they died. And in that life review, they're shown moments of their kindness on earth, moments of them not being kind on earth, maybe hurting somebody, and they always feel the emotions from the other person's point of view. So they describe it as the emotions being much stronger than they would have felt while on earth, and things that they might have not have noticed they were doing maybe to hurt someone, they notice it being hyper real when there. And so sometimes they have feelings of regret. Oh, why did I do that? And all the while, the spirit guide or the angel that has taken them here doesn't really say anything. Um, it doesn't interrupt them while they watch this whole life review. And many of them report having like some kind of a projector screen running. It's funny because some of them say they see like a movie reel running down from like 3 to 1 and then says the life of and their name. Some of them report just looking down and down into a kind of light and then watching their life review play out that way. So it's interesting that although all of them report having a life review of some sort, it all happens in different ways. And I'll get into this later, why this is pretty interesting to me and what I think about it. And then sometimes they are then given particular revelations about life, revelations about spirituality. Many of them are many of them are asked whether they would like to stay or they would like to leave. Some of them are told that they have to leave, that it's not their time yet. And some of the revelations that they're told include tell people on Earth that, their earthly existence is not the only existence, and that the universe is made of love, compassion, kindness, and they don't have to worry about anything, because even if they are suffering here on Earth, that it is a temporary existence, and that everyone is here to quote unquote learn something, and that this is a sort of soul school, so to speak. And people come down here for various reasons, and that at our core we are really spiritual beings, and we have our home in the afterlife. And so some of them report being in heaven, and they're able to see how beautiful it is there, but most of them don't describe any sort of they don't describe the scenery as much as the feeling. So most of them just report having intense feelings of love, of acceptance, of feelings of compassion. Some of them report to meet a Jesus figure. Some of them don't meet Jesus. They meet another being that's unrelated. So these are very interesting things to me. And so I'll get into my comments now. So what it seems to me, just thinking about this logically, rationally, is that it seems they all have different experiences based upon their own beliefs. So people that have some kind of belief in Christianity get to see what they would consider to be Jesus. People will report Jesus not always looking the same. So sometimes they say they can't even see his face. It's just a bright white orb, but they know it's Jesus because they communicate. Jesus communicates it to them, saying, yes, that's who I am. And another commonality is that communication there happens telepathically. So you ask a question in your mind and you get the answer immediately, and like a telepathic aha kind of moment. So that's how most of them see themselves as having these communications. And so what I find interesting is that since all these stories are different, it seems every soul or every spirit has a different experience of the afterlife, a different experience of heaven. And because it varies so much, it seems that since we are all different, in a sense, we should expect different things to be happening to us when we go to heaven. Although, like I said, 90% of them report going through a white light and having this life review. So still seems like there are commonalities. What I wanted to connect this to was that it seems a lot of what people report, and this research goes back, and so this research usually it stems back in time. I've seen videos of people from like the 70s, for example, of telling their near-death experience. So there's a lot of research on the topic, actually. A lot of doctors, hospitals actually record this, and it's just recently I came to find that there's actually things like conferences that go on for near-death experiencers, because it seems another commonality is that when they come back, they all feel very different. They feel like they don't belong here on Earth, or they feel like they had a very strange experience and they don't have anyone that they can communicate it with. So finding each other, in a sense, is something that feels good to them, because they're able to talk to people who have had their similar experience, and through that have some kind of, friendship, companionship with people that have had similar experiences. But so what I find interesting is that, first of all, they have these commonalities in their stories. They all report leaving the body, seeing their body, having a life review, meeting beings telling them that this is not their time, or that this is how the universe works. Oh, and another part is that they all experience a sudden burst of kind of intuitive knowledge, seeing how everything works, seeing how everything is perfect, and just understanding. So they're given a kind of understanding. But the link that I wanted to make here was that in certain spiritual readings, so if you look at a lot of Buddhist or Hindu spiritual doctrine, and you speak to some gurus and some meditators, you find that they report that they split the world up into 3 separate parts. They split it up into the physical realm, the astral realm, where I'm guessing all these spirits are going and souls are living, and the causal realm, which is a very much more subtle realm than the astral or the physical. So the physical is the most gross realm. So everything is like matter. You feel everything. You feel as if everything is real, and time being one of the biggest factors in the physical realm as well, is not found to exist in the astral realm. So most of the people in the astral realm, they say, well, they were only dead for 15 minutes while on Earth, but they could have felt like they were in the astral realm for 100 years if they tried to capture all that they went through. So we see that time just feels it's a relative thing. You have to compare it to something before you can even have a concept of how much time has gone by when you are in the astral realms. And above the astral realms, in the causal realms, is what the most uppermost realm is called, is more of a realm of pure ideas. It is described in a book by Paramahansa Yogananda. It's called The Autobiography of a Yogi. And in this book, it describes basically these tiers, I would call it, of existence. With the causal being one where you've, in a sense, eliminated your sense of ego a lot more, or your sense of being a separate individual a lot more, and you've advanced spiritually enough to the extent where you can exist in a realm that gets to participate in creation, for example. That's just one of the things, but it seems in the causal realm they participate in like the formation of ideas, the 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 meditation on pure concepts, love, meditation on what is pure love, meditation on the nature of hate, on the nature of jealousy, on the nature of humans, on the nature of a universe, things like that, concepts. And then it seems in the astral realm, you have a lot more freedom of existence as a individual being, experiencing worlds, seeing beings, seeing beautiful waterfalls, beautiful colors. They describe rainbows of brilliant colors that are just unimaginable, and just a feeling of love and peace apparently exists there. And then of course when you come down to Earth, you have a lot more polarization. So when you come down to this gross realm is when you start to have things that feel so real. The pain feels so painful and the joy feels so joyful, but they're only temporary and they all happen through time. So the reason I bring this up is because it seems that there's a correlation between what these people that have near-death experiences see and what has been taught in doctrine. So I find it interesting, particularly that at bottom it seems as if that is what's going on. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and once your awareness leaves your body, that awareness can take form in another realm, in a realm that is not tied to the physical realm. They usually picture the body being tied to the astral body through something like a string, like a silver cord, is what a lot of them describe. And I guess once this silver cord is broken, it means that your awareness is no longer breathing through your body anymore. I guess I could describe it that way. What I wanted to go over as well was the idea or concept that awareness or consciousness is all that there is. And at that level, if you are able to meditate, if you become very versed in meditating on earth, you can reach states where you recognize that your identification with your body, your identification with your personality, your identification with your thinking, with your mind, like those are all constructs that you build as you grow up, as society starts to tell you what kind of person you are. They start to tell you you have this language, you come from this family, you live in this country, and they basically give you the attributes to which you are going to start identifying yourself as. And the more and more you get away from that, the closer you get to the thing that I'm calling consciousness or awareness. And so we have to ask the question, once you are one with this awareness, understanding that you are not particularly this body, I do not believe it necessarily means that you are now housing in your spiritual body at that moment. No, at that moment, what you are more likely doing is identifying with the consciousness that is working through the physical, astral, and the causal, through all these realms. So why does it happen that once you go to the astral realm, you house a body again, but a spiritual body instead? This should follow that even within the astral realm, you are contained within a kind of idea, an idea of a spiritual world with other spiritual beings that is different than the earthly realm, that doesn't contain time, and you're able to experience that realm. But you experiencing that realm is still you being apart from universal or one consciousness. And so one consciousness would follow that this is containing of all these beings, of all these realms. And whenever you start to identify with any sort of being is when that being takes a characteristic of being that person. And the characteristic is tied to all the experiences, the ideas that are surrounded to on that being. So let's think about this a little bit more. This being is everybody. This being is everything. This being has everything in it and is in everything. So what it feels like to be you, for example, is a lot different than what it feels like to be me, because you and I have had different experiences. But the I, or the being that is behind you and I, is the same being. And so this is where it gets a little bit trippy. Your being and my being are the same being, although we are experiencing being differently, and we are closing ourselves off from each other in different ways. And so you are there and I am here, and she is over there, and this would follow even going into the spiritual realms. Oh, there are people in the spiritual realms. There are people there that come and guide us after we die. This is all still relational, because you are trying to have some sort of continuity going from dying on earth, going into the spiritual realms, and you're trying to still have your being is trying to have continuity. And as long as you try to keep having this continuity, this sense of who you are, you're going to continue existing, whether it is physical, whether it is spiritual, so whether in the astral, whether in the causal realms. It seems that at bottom, it is still all the same being, and this being is what we could refer to as God. At the same time, as soon as we put a label on the being, we are creating a distinction between yourself and that God, and so you're relating to the God in some way as him being higher than you. And so it is a being being God and a being you, having them both thinking they're each other, that being having stupendous powers because it's, a lot closer to its core nature of being, just without the awareness that it's not separate from being itself. And you have it at a much steeper level down the chain, and that you think you're just a body, you think you're limited to your 5 senses and your thoughts and your memory. You think that's what you're limited to. And so, of course, in that scope, when you relate to God, you are a lot smaller. It's just simple mathematics, because you know mathematics and God knows mathematics. So you guys are relating to each other in that way. But at bottom, and as a lot of Hindu and Buddhist scriptures teach, and as well as Christianity, if you read Christianity deep enough, you'll find that Christianity also talks about Jesus being one with the Father, and Jesus calls himself a son of God, and then he also says you're all sons of God if you have Christ in you. So all of this was just a way of saying that everything is one. When Jesus says me and the Father are one, this is a description of recognizing that there is no separation between being and a being, if you know what I mean. There's no relation between capital being and a being, you, me, him, or her. But the extent to which we have within our belief systems that these distinctions exist is the extent to which they will exist. And the reason I came to this topic is because I'm going to make a comment about these near-death experiences, and not to talk any of them down and not to insult any of these people, but they all experienced what they were capable of experiencing. So let that sink in a bit. I am not discounting any of their experiences, but I am saying that at bottom, their relationships to everything that they saw was as a result of them harboring certain belief systems and them believing they are those beings, and even the other beings that came to guide them and take them left or right and show them a life review. Those beings are also playing within a certain paradigm, a paradigm of, okay, maybe their paradigm that they're playing in is this earth is a school and we come here to learn things, and beings that are there choose to, incorporate themselves into an earthly existence because that system exists. And how does that system exist? Well, go up to the conceptual realms or the causal realms, and you see that here you have the ability to create concepts of how things exist. So the concept of a being going from the causal to the astral, and then down into a physical body, joining with a mother in the womb as she's given birth. These concepts exist, and so these concepts are what being is buying into, and being created all of this. And I know it's a bad word because created makes a separation between creator and created, and so that is not the case. It is actually that the formless creator, who is simply just being and consciousness, takes form. And so you can even consider that one of the first forms that this formless creator takes is a form of a universe, a form of different realms. Those are forms of itself, and within those forms of itself, experiencing points within all those spaces, experiencing points from a singular point of view. So you start to have images of this formless creator, but having a subset of him. So it's having a subset of himself, and subset at different levels. So subset as a god, subset as a planet, subset as a soul, subset as an angel, as an archangel. All different views or different point of views of beings choosing to be that being and identifying with that being. So beings exist. Again, I don't discount anyone's near-death experience, but I just wanted to do a video on exploring the idea a little bit more. And as you can see in my previous videos, I am quite the proponent of universal consciousness, and that is because I'm a believer that, or I am of the belief that all is one, and awareness, consciousness is at bottom of it all, and that we are all one being, or only awareness exists, so to speak, and that everything and everyone just chooses to experience that being from their particular point of view. And as you start to step back from that, you start to see how even when you start having relationships between man and God, or man and spirits, and the spiritual beings which they're seeing and the love and compassion which they are feeling, it's, in my view, it's nice, it's wonderful, and I'm glad that, you know, life is a lot more fun, I guess, than it looks, or it's not. It doesn't end here. It doesn't end on Earth. It continues. That's interesting. That's all nice. But as a proponent of universal consciousness, I would say that those are part of a distraction. I like it, I understand it, but in order to, if you are a true spiritual seeker, or a true seeker of God, or a true seeker of truth, then you should know that those are trips along the way. Those are just other trips. I like to call it. There are just other trips that you're taking, and you're experiencing things from another point of view, which is good, can be interesting, which can be amazing, and maybe that's what life is all about in the first place. But just investigate these ideas on your own. Investigate the idea of what do people mean when they're talking about a soul school. Earth is a soul school, and there's the afterlife and heaven, and there's places where people just don't do anything. There's places where people are maybe having education, and they just feel loved all the time. And like, just consider what's going on there, and consider if it's even possible to have a continuous existence there and not choose to come to Earth, where you can have at least an existence within time, and it feels uber real, I guess. Which was another strange aspect of what they all described, because most of the NDE experiencers described their experience as feeling more real than this reality itself. It felt ultra real, they called it. So consider that again. If it felt ultra real, and a lot of them were given the choice to stay there, why didn't they stay? Why did they choose to come back to somewhere that doesn't feel so real? Versus somewhere that feels like a dream. That they wanted to go back to sleep, wanted to go back to dreaming. Why, if you were having a dream and you were told that, oh, this whole time you were dreaming, would you get so attached to the characters in your dream that you'll decide, no, I actually want to dream. I don't want to wake up and be home, since a lot of them describe that as feeling like home. So it's a very, you start thinking and considering where the lines are drawn. Where does your ego start and where does it end? And where does your sense of being a continuous person start and where does that end? When you go to the heavenly spheres, do you still have memory of your experience on Earth? Or if you do have memory, do you still think you're the same person? If you still think you're the same person, what does that change about everything? Are you still going to be, if you were mean, are you still going to be mean? If you were nice, are you still going to be nice? And so this starts to draw us towards conceptions such as vibrational frequencies, and you being drawn to the areas of heaven where that most match the kind of person you are. So instead of being a melting pot like on Earth, you go towards people that you basically generally get along with, and that again speaks to the fact of, okay, so does this being that creates all these multiple versions of itself, is it creating like copycats, people that are maybe almost all alike? And then what does it feel to be those people? What does it feel to be the copycats? You being a copycat of him or her. Basically, because if you have similar vibrational frequencies, as is said, then you guys are basically almost the same, right? Well, except no, you each have a soul. Oh, okay, so we each have a soul. So this soul, is this soul also a reflection of God, of being? And if so, how is my soul different than your soul? But yeah, I won't go down that rabbit hole any further. I've given my idea, or I've given my say on what I believe is the case, which is that at bottom, universal consciousness beats all. But these other aspects are also interesting and are nice to explore. So give it a thought. Like the video, please, if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. This has been fun, and see you next time. Irrational Skeptic signing off.